Hey guys, welcome to the Blue Wave. So we have another prime example of just how insane Donald Trump's foreign policy is, especially when it comes to Ukraine, and really how uncomfortably close and uncomfortably fine he seems to be with accepting praise from people such as Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin and some of the most brutal dictators really on the whole planet. And this new interview that has come out with new moderator of Meet the Press after Meet the Press has had a bit of a shakeup. Kristen Welker is now in, and Chuck Todd, has been replaced. And Trump has done an interview, his first broadcast interview, as a matter of fact, on NBC News Now with Kristen Welker, and she asks him about something Vladimir Putin has recently said about him and how he would treat the Ukraine war. And I'm going to show you guys the clip here and let you know what I think afterwards.
Take a listen.
I want to ask you about something President Putin said about you this week. I don't know if you've seen it. This was very recent. President Putin said, quote, "We surely hear that Mr. Trump says he will resolve all burning issues within several days, including the Ukrainian crisis. We cannot help but feel happy about it." What do you make of that? Do you welcome his support?
I like that he said that, because that means what I'm saying is right. I would get him into a room, I'd get Zelensky into a room, then I'd bring them together and I'd have a deal worked out. I would get a deal worked out. It would have been a lot easier before it started. Essentially, for 4 years, I kept them from doing anything. Because, you know what, I will tell you this, I've never said this, Ukraine was the apple of his eye. I said, don't ever do it, don't ever do it. He would have never done it. But again, oil prices. He wouldn't have done it because of me, but oil prices.
He's saying he wouldn't have done it because of me, and he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it, meaning that Putin wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. But there's absolutely no evidence of that. And he goes on and he never says why that exactly why him being president would have stopped Putin from invading Ukraine, when in fact Putin's been talking about a pipe dream of rebuilding the USSR and making the world more like how he wants it to be for a long time now. And it really just goes to show how crazy and how disgusting it is, really disgusting, that Donald Trump would not directly criticize Putin for saying anything positive about him, and to pretend that he would be able to somehow stop the war. How exactly would that have happened, Trump? You can't just say something with no evidence and then think it and speak it into existence. There's no evidence of that at all. In fact, basically what Putin means when he says Trump would handle the situation and we feel good about Trump's leadership because the Ukraine situation would be handled. Let me translate that for you, okay? What that means is Trump would hand over Ukraine to Putin. And Trump would withdraw all United States support for Ukraine and make it so that Putin could just roll over the country. And that's why it would be good, because that's what Putin wants to do. So if Putin's saying that it's good that Trump's leadership would be a good thing, then we know exactly how we think Putin thinks that Trump would make the war go. And he's saying he would resolve it, but a peaceful resolution is not possible because Putin was not willing to negotiate with Zelensky at the start of the war. And when you're attacking a sovereign country's territory, it's not for any other outside leader to decide whether or not your sovereign territory should be encroached on. And that's the view that the Ukrainians have of the situation. And it's totally their right to fight for every inch of their territory. So let's continue watching the video here.
The prices were so high that he had so much money. So he had all this money to prosecute the war. The one who drove up the prices was Biden.
Given that President Putin has bombed maternity wards, 20,000 kids kidnapped from Ukraine by Russia, mass graves. Yeah. Do you welcome his support, his all but endorsement?
Look, I had a very good relationship with him, and yet nobody was tougher on Russia than me. I stopped Nord Stream 2. You never heard of Nord Stream 2. That was the pipeline until I got involved. I said Nord Stream 2, people that were sophisticated, military people and political people, never heard of Nord Stream 2. I had it ended. The pipeline was dead. Biden came in and he approved it. There was nobody tougher than me with Russia, and yet I got along with Putin. Let me tell you, I got along with him really well. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. He's got 1,700 nuclear missiles, and so do we. But look, that's a good thing. Getting along is okay, but I got along through strength. And the war would have never happened. The war would have never happened. Now what's happened, it's so bad. The oil price is so high. It's hard to get it stopped. The oil price is so high. When he goes above $50 and $60 a barrel, he makes a lot of money on the war.
Again, he's going to continually say that if he was president, the war wouldn't have happened, without ever saying exactly why or how that's true, or giving any evidence towards that, why or how that's true. And it's just so frustrating to hear his mishmash of words that it doesn't add up to anything, and he's not really saying anything. But you could see how people who are not totally in on the could see and take to this macho image that he presents. And it's just like any other of these strongman authoritarians that present the same image and garner support in similar ways of presenting themselves. So that's really why Putin and Trump like each other and get along, is because they're two peas in a pod. So let me tell you, if you want our country to look more like Russia than how it does now, and you want our leadership and our government to look more like how it does in Russia, then by all means support Trump. I personally think that would be a disaster. I personally think that our system of government in our country and everything about our country is way, way, way better than Russia. But maybe you disagree with that. I don't know. But he says it's all terrible. It's all terrible that Putin's done all these things. But I'm not going to condemn Putin directly for doing that. But if I was president, the war would have never happened. Okay, well, you're not president, and the war has happened because Putin ordered his troops to invade Ukraine and attack with missiles and to order a brutal assault. And she brings up the point of, people have been tortured and killed and thrown in mass graves, and all kinds of civilians have died. And, Trump says it's terrible, but I also get along with him really good, and I'm not going to criticize Putin at all. But it's terrible. It's like, but you're not, the image that you're presenting doesn't really, it doesn't make it seem like you really think that is terrible. You know what I mean? Just saying those words has no weight, Trump, when everything else, all the rest of your behavior and everything else that you say shows that you support Putin. So yeah, it doesn't really make, he has trouble here, in a lot of different ways, just kind of making sense of the questions, and the mishmash of words is hard to follow sometimes, honestly. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. And please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think of Trump's stance on Ukraine and his foreign policy, and his continued assertion that he would be the one to stop the war in Ukraine. How that would happen when Zelensky and Ukraine has no interest in negotiating with Russia and coming to the table with them at this point. They did early on in the invasion. Putin didn't want to. He wanted to solve his grievances by force and redraw the world boundaries how he sees fit by force. So that's what he chose to do. And there was no peace offered by Putin to Zelensky, and no mercy offered to all kinds of different civilians in Ukraine by this point. So, yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching again, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, peace.